Before Ride and Shred, Tony Hawk's games have been somewhat mediocre for years. New games like Project 8 and Proving Ground weren't up to the standards set by older games, and more serious efforts like EA's Skate series had taken a few lumps out of them. The answer for Activision was to make some wild changes. Original developers Neversoft get kicked out of the door and replaced by new kids, Robomodo, who have a cunning plan. Why don't we get people to actually skate when they're playing this skateboarding video game? That was the design philosophy behind the all-new Tony Hawk's Ride, released in 2009. How do we get people to actually skate when playing the game? Well, naturally you include a plastic skateboard controller that you stand on while playing. And because of this, you up the price of the product to $120. The new way of playing Tony Hawk was filled with so many problems. It was deemed almost unplayable from the start. Even trying to do a simple kickflip was fraught with issues. It came in for a massive critical kicking, with Eurogamer's Ellie Gibson simply saying, "Don't buy Tony Hawk's Ride unless you want to be taken for one." Game was a huge commercial flop, not even entering the UK top 40 on release. The issue should have been clear. Fiddling around with this stupid and expensive plastic deck was not even remotely as fun as playing with a controller was in the old games. Simple as that. But Activision had a different idea. The reason why the game didn't perform was actually because the software wasn't up to scratch. Yeah, they spent so much time creating the peripheral that they couldn't get a decent game going for it. And so Activision stuck with the plastic board for another instalment, 2011's Tony Hawk's Shred. And guess what? It was barely an improvement at all. Shred sold a pathetic 3,000 copies in its first week in the US, and that appeared to be the end of the series completely. But even the man and legend himself, Tony Hawk, couldn't quite put his finger on why the game failed so hard. He thought the critics just hadn't given it a chance. And that's the real answer for Shred's failure, was because peripheral-led games like this and Guitar Hero were simply going out of style by the time it came out. Poor old Tony actually thought the board controller was ahead of its time. But I'm sure that many people who struggled endlessly trying to even bloody move in-game with the thing would agree with the man.